Maryland, the Old Line State, the Free State. Located in the Mid-Atlantic region, Maryland's geography is dominated by the Chesapeake Bay, which is fed by a series of rivers and tributaries that create scenic waterways and islands. The bay itself is a haven for waterfowl and other marine life and is a lifeline for those who make its living off of its waters. It is also home to the United States Naval Academy, located in the capital of Maryland, Annapolis. Settled by Puritans in 1649, Annapolis was originally called Providence, an Anne Arundel town. Known in colonial times as the Athens of America, Annapolis is one of the oldest cities in both the state of Maryland and the country. The Maryland State House is the oldest state capitol still in legislative use. It is also the only state house to serve as the capital of the United States. Under its iconic wooden dome, the Continental Congress met in 1738. George Washington resigned his commission as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, and the Treaty of Paris was ratified in 1783, ending the Revolutionary War. Maryland is also home to other cities such as Baltimore, and is rich in historical heritage. There is the star-shaped Fort McHenry, where a brave group of Marylanders defended the city of Baltimore during the War of 1812 with the British. This led Francis Scott Key to write his famous poem that would later become our national anthem. Maryland is home to Harriet Tubman, who became a conductor on the Underground Railroad after escaping for her own freedom. During her return missions, she helped approximately 70 slaves to escape to freedom using the paths and the waterways of Dorchester County. Maryland is also the final home of Edgar Allan Poe. This simple house on Amity Street was his final home. He died in Maryland of unknown causes. Maryland is also the proud home of the world-renowned Johns Hopkins University and the Johns Hopkins Medical System located in Baltimore City. But before all of this, Maryland made history from its very inception as a colony. Our story begins with three men. There is George Calvert, the first Lord Baltimore, his oldest son Cecil Calvert, the second Lord Baltimore, and his other son Leonard Calvert, who served as the first colonial governor of the colony of Maryland. Their colony was bordered on the north by Pennsylvania and to the south by Virginia, but there were differences between these colonies. There are three different types of colonies in America. Charter colonies were established by a group of people that petitioned the king for the right to create a colony. There were only 2 charter colonies in the original 13, and they are found in New England. Royal colonies were the most prevalent in America. This type was under the direct control of the king. Out of the 13 original, 8 of these were royal colonies, and this included Virginia. The final type is proprietary. Unlike charter, a proprietary was granted to one man and then would pass on to his descendants. This person would have the ultimate control over the colony and how it was set up and run. This included the final 3 colonies of Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. Both George Calvert and William Penn created their colonies not only for monetary gains, but for religious freedom. Penn was originally a member of the Church of England, but converted to the Religious Society of Friends. He founded his colony 50 years after Maryland was settled, and in October of 1701, William Penn created the Charter of Privileges, which granted religious freedom to all Christians. This was 52 years after the act concerning religion was written in Maryland. George Calvert served in the court of King James I, and later his son Charles. It was King James that made George Calvert the first Baron of Baltimore in recognition to his service to the crown. George Calvert converted to Catholicism, although some of his contemporaries thought he was Catholic in secret. He tried to create a colony in Newfoundland, but the climate and the terrain were not conducive to this endeavor. He petitioned Charles for a colony further south in America. There was a disagreement with the Virginia colony, who feared that Catholicism would take root and feared another colony being formed on the Chesapeake Bay. Eventually, George Calvert accepted a colony that was situated north of the Potomac River and straddled both sides of the Chesapeake Bay. The senior Calvert never received the charter for his new colony, as he died 5 weeks before it was passed. The charter for the province of Maryland and the title of Lord Baltimore was passed to his son, Cecil. Cecil set about to fulfill his father's wishes and create the colony of Maryland, which he named after Charles's wife, Queen Henrietta Maria. In the fall of 1633 and throughout the winter of 1633 into 1634, they set sail from England to the new colony of Maryland and arrived in the spring of 1634. Their ships were named the Ark and the Dove and were originally owned by George Calvert. They quickly set about creating a new settlement, which they named St. Mary City. There were many firsts in this colony, but the greatest of all of these was the idea of religious tolerance. For many, the ideal of religious tolerance was unheard of, and it was Leonard Calvert who helped implement his older brother's idea of bringing this about. Since the family was Catholic, they were not able to practice their faith in public, hold office, or even vote. But Cecil Calvert wanted to change that in Maryland. He wanted to create a place where any Trinitarian Christian could vote, could hold office, and practice their faith without fear of persecution or harm. The Act concerning religion, or the Maryland Toleration Act of 1649, was the first of this in the New World. It would allow both Catholics and Protestants to work side by side without fear or retribution. They were also able to create the first Catholic Church in America. Unfortunately, this new idea of religious toleration wouldn't last. Roughly 5 years after it was created, the Act of Toleration was repealed. This was due to Protestants seizing the colony after the execution of Charles I. Not only did they repeal the Toleration Act, but they publicly banned the Catholic faith being practiced. The Maryland Toleration Act and the freedom it granted to Trinitarian Christians would remain dormant in the memories of minds of Americans. It would take over a century and a Revolutionary War to see Calvert's dreams renewed. The creation of the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights would offer religious freedom that the Calverts had sought to create. Even some of the wording of the Maryland Toleration Act was used in the creation of the First Amendment, the free exercise thereof. The legacy of this one document and the ideas behind it are still felt today. These ideas predate the Enlightenment and even the British Toleration Act of 1689, to name a few. It is the true starting point of separation of church and state in America and the cornerstone of our religious freedom. Maryland would go on to fight other battles. From the Battle of Baltimore, where Francis Scott Key watched the bombardment of Fort McHenry, to the single bloodiest day in American history, the Battle of Antietam. There would be other firsts championed by Marylanders as well, including the first freedman of color to serve in this legislature in 1642, to the first African-American Supreme Court justice. Maryland was founded to offer a safe haven for all who wished to worship their faith in Christ, whether they were Catholic or Protestant. And while it took a great deal of time to see that finally come true, the hopes and dreams of one family created a spark that would inspire the Founding Fathers to write the First Amendment and guarantee religious freedom for all in America. And this happened in the state of Maryland.